time for another Elsie's Little Pickles. It's the pickle pod for the people. We're going to pod our pickles off today. This has been an odd week already, don't you think?
Every week is a little odd.
Yeah, they're all a little bit odd, you know what I mean? But sometimes the mix of the stories it's a little bit surprising, you know? And I know we'll get to some of these in the news here, but I mean, when you think about it, last week you had the CEO of that health insurance company get murdered.
Yeah, where did the murder take place?
New York City.
It was in New York City.
New York City.
New York City.
And apparently he's been apprehended now.
Yes.
The interesting thing
was he apprehended at a McDonald's or something?
In Altoona, Pennsylvania, yeah. And I've performed in Altoona.
Why? What's that?
I've performed in Altoona. I got to tell you,
I passed through there.
I have never, I did it once and I'll never do it again. It was not.
Is that on the list of no-go cities now?
Yeah, it was fine. You know what I mean? It was fine.
Like Wichita?
Well, it was more, the situation was more of a weather situation than anything else. The people were great. The town was fine, but it was during a huge, huge blizzard. And in the course of trying to get there, they actually closed the turnpike, and I was stuck on the turnpike. And
that's fun.
Yeah. So they closed it, but if you were on it, you could continue. And you really almost had to, because there was no other way to get anywhere. And that did seem to be the safest spot. But in the course of that, I'm watching semis literally just slide and fall off the road. You know, so that particular trip was memorable because it was so stressful. What's that?
How long ago would that have been?
Ooh, that would have probably been mid to late 90s.
Okay.
It was a long time ago.
Long before a lot of turnpikes in that area, and even here in Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, every 5 miles, I think they have a big gas station super center.
Yeah. They didn't really have that set up at that point. I mean, they were starting to get
pull off. You know, we've done it where the weather just got too bad, and we pulled off in one of those, got gas, parked with our vehicles in the RV, and just found the old generator, and
there's nothing else you can do. I mean, like if you have that opportunity, I sure would have
opened a bee.
I would have preferred to have done that. I would have preferred to gotten off and gotten a hotel room, but I had to get to the show. And no matter how many times I checked in with the booker on the course of that, they kept saying, no, it's happening. The show's a go. And I'm like, this is dangerous. You know, this isn't just bad news. This is life-threatening weather conditions. And they're like, well, if you want to work for us ever again, you better get to the gig. I'm like, all right, great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And, when I did get there, obviously hardly anyone was at the show, because, I mean, they were getting not just inches, they were getting feet. So it just was one of those nightmare runs that happened. But, what are we drinking? Little iced tea?
Nothing exciting.
I just saw the shape of the bottle. A little iced tea, huh?
Yeah, I was searching for my bottle of iced tea. Finally found it.
Yeah, this whole thing with this guy in Altoona, apparently a customer, I believe it was, mentioned that to an employee. And
Could I get a number 1, no pickle, no onion, and a reward for that killer over there?
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's going to be one of those things where it's like, it was the McDonald's worker who called.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how they're going to handle the reward situation or whatever, if they're going to handle it at all.
I assume, sir, that's to go.
Yeah. But it's interesting with this guy, Luigi. How do you say his last name?
I don't have
Marigioni. Yeah. Anyways, turns out this kid comes from a very wealthy family. Comes from
let's just refer to him as Luigi Mastacholi.
He apparently went to some swanky private all boys school and graduated valedictorian, and went to an Ivy League school, which I believe was Stanford. I didn't really read too much into it. It's just interesting. It's just interesting because what would it take for somebody that has, by all of friends and family that have been interviewed, this kind of blessed life, was by all accounts a really easygoing, very approachable person who liked to help out and, would donate his time and all this stuff, had like a list of 300 books that he had either read or wanted to read listed on his social media. What makes a person like that snap? Well, I have to assume
large medical bill.
Yeah, I mean, I have to assume, based on his age, because I think he's 26, that he came off his parents' insurance, and then all of a sudden he was not getting care for, from what I understand, extreme back issues. All right, yeah. Well, I could see where that would make a motherfucker snap. I've had back problems, and let me tell you something. If your back's hurting enough, you might want to take a trip and shoot a CEO. I mean, I can see that. I can see where a guy would get like that. But that's my point, though, is that with all of these corporations, like, the thing was, no one was sympathetic to the CEO or the company, right? Like, online.
I've got a few sciatica issues carrying around your mom all night, man.
But I mean, I can see where, like, social media was very, very much like, you know what, go fuck yourself, you find them. And some were calling him a hero. There was a campaign to free him already. And I think that, yeah, no, it was like an online campaign to try to free him. And look, I get it. All these companies are making more and more money, giving away less and less of the product that they're supposed to be supplying to you. And it's just a cash grab at the top. So I can see why people felt that way. I'm not saying I condone it. I'm not saying it's right, but I can at least understand why they would be like, you know what? Fuck him. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Like it's that kind of craziness. And then you couple that with,
there was a comedian who once talked about how violence against women is unacceptable. Well, he can understand.
I don't know who that was.
I feel like it might have been Eddie Murphy, something like that, where he's like, you can't just grab him. You can't just want to just shake the hell out of him. But you can't do it.
You talking?
But I understand.
That would have had to have been. It couldn't have been Delirious, so it would have been the.
Like Raw or something, maybe.
I'm not sure. I don't remember that one.
It's somebody like that. But anyway, I'm throwing monkey wrenches into the works.
Yes, you are. All right, hit me with some news. Aside from the guy that Luigi
Mastacholi.
Yeah, aside from Luigi Mastacholi.
I really blame Mario for not keeping him in line. Taylor Swift gifts her support staff with a hefty bonus at the conclusion of the Eras Tour, which amounted to $197 million in bonuses.
It's good to work for the Queen. I mean, that potentially, depending on how big that support staff was, and this is just support staff you're talking, right? So like your roadies, your truck drivers,
just support staff,
your people that go out ahead to the next venue and all that, and get everything ready for you. That's pretty impressive. I mean, I don't know how big that crew was, but that potentially could be making everyone either a millionaire or at least half a millionaire,
Yeah.
Now watch. Something will come out of that negative. You know what I mean? Like something.
Well,
something
it is Taylor Swift. So there's, right-wing morons who are like, she didn't support Trump, so she's a horrible person.
No. I mean, like there'll be somebody that gets, they complain because now their taxes, they lost a lot of it paying taxes because they don't realize how that shit works. It's like, here's $1 million. All right, how much can I keep? Here's 200,000.
Address the fact that Republicans or conservatives, the right-wing maggots, love to throw pedophile around, calling anyone baselessly a pedophile.
Well, that's the new way.
The people in that party are constantly busted for something like that. Constantly.
I know.
Or they try to pass laws to support it. It's like, really?
It's literally, they're either trying to accuse somebody else of doing what they're doing or trying to pass laws that make no sense at all, right? It's interesting because Trump just did that big interview where it was like an hour and 15 minutes, hour and 16 minutes or whatever. And I haven't watched the whole thing yet. I've watched the clips, and I don't like just doing the clips on that because potentially you can take that shit out of context. I want to know the full context.
Yes.
So I want to watch the whole thing. I just haven't had a chance. Otherwise, we'd be talking about that today. But in that, one of the things I thought was interesting is he's not backing down necessarily, but he is rewording shit a lot. Just in the few clips that I've seen, he's definitively like, now he's going, oh, I'm not saying that prices are going to go down with tariffs. I never said that. Well, you fucking did. You fucking did. Okay? There's video, and that's what you said. But now he's like, even when it comes to deportation, he's trying to soft speak around like, the dreamers and stuff like that. Well, it's unfortunate what's happened to them, and I feel for them. But, so like there's a lot of mealy mouth answers that I've seen so far, which is why I want to watch it all in context, because I don't want to really comment too much on it. But the one thing that is definitive is he wants, and he intends to extend the tax breaks that he put in place in 2017. Well, in the 4 years that followed that, those tax breaks, I heard on the Pod Save America guys, it said, like, one of the big pharma companies saved like $6 billion in taxes. $6 billion. They effectively, with the loopholes added, paid no taxes, and they only increased hiring by 1%. So essentially, it was just a cash grab.
Yeah.
So you're seeing that now, again, because like right now, even places like Chipotle, who had a very profitable last year, they're already announcing they're going to raise the prices on food for next year.
Yeah.
I mean, how is the guy who won because bacon is too expensive and eggs are too expensive creating an environment that is just going to make everything more expensive?
Well, two things really quick. Vance was videoed crying about eggs and the prices of eggs, that they're $6-7 for a dozen, while holding a dozen of eggs, and the sign behind him said $2.99. So there's that. Yeah, seriously, that happened. But also, I read just after the election that the state of Texas is gifting the Trump administration 1,400 acres in the state of Texas. 1,400 acres.
For what? I'm going to guess detainment.
Yes.
So 1,400 acres, they're just going to give to the Trump administration so that they can build, or so they can bring in these for-profit prisons, and they're going to build on that 1,400 acres. That
they're going to build internment camps.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean,
again, people don't want to admit that this is sounding like 1930s Germany, but you know what?
It's sounding a little bit like it. It may not be the A side, but it definitely sounds like the B side. And again, I know it sounds callous to go, well, this is what you wanted. You know what I mean? But this is what you wanted. This is what you got. If you voted for Trump, these were the things that got you going. This was the red meat. Tax breaks, deportation, like abortion, all those things. Okay. Well, as these not to mention those things, but his economic policies, tariffs, and the like. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see how this works out. But I don't see it. It's one of those things where I think that you and I are fortunate enough not only to be white males that can put a red hat on and pretend to be Trump supporters, but also just because of where we've gotten at this point in our lives. We'll both feel it, but I don't think we're going to feel it nearly as bad as most people. But it'll be interesting to see where we are 4 years from now. I'm very, very curious how the economic numbers end for Joe Biden's presidency. Because I go, like I've told you many times, and I've said this on the podcast many times, I go from January 20th to January 20th. So the day that you're inaugurated and your last day as president, and everything in between, even if your second term, whether it's 4 years or 8 years, from the 20th to the 20th, you own it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, but his 20th to 20th last time did not stack up well.
We are in a unique situation where the worse that it gets, the more money we could probably make.
I would think.
And
I mean, you're talking about as podcasting?
in the terms of the medical field.
Okay.
And yes, kind of like, well, we can probably make a lot of money coming up because I don't see anything good happening.
Yeah.
But I don't relish in that.
No, but you got when the writing is on the wall, right? When you see, and you're just taking the candidate at their word. Like, this isn't forecasting anything. This is just taking him at his word that he's going to do what he says he's going to do. Okay. So when you take a candidate at their word and you see, okay, that's the writing he's putting on the wall, I need to prepare my finances and my lifestyle to accordingly to what's going on. Yeah, you're right. You know, with you guys in the medical field, absolutely, I would be thinking that you're going to start seeing, especially with RFK and running all the health situation, I definitively see that there's going to be preventable, vaccinable disease rise again. I think you're going to see a lot of, whether it's measles, you could see mumps come back. You could see all kinds of shit come back. The only thing that Trump said was he's a fan of the polio vaccine, so it would take a lot to talk him into getting rid of that one. Okay, well, there's like 73 vaccines, which does seem to be a bit excessive to me, right? And I'm sure that a few of them probably aren't necessary and probably just a cash grab from Big Pharma. I have no problem getting rid of those, or if they're just ineffective, or if they're causing, like everyone says, they're causing autism. I don't buy that. I don't believe that. But if you can prove that, my mind can be changed. See, I think that's the difference between a lot of Democrats and a lot of Republicans, or liberals and conservatives. I think that for the vast majority, or I'm not even going to say the vast majority, I'm just going to speak for myself. Okay? I'm liberal leaning, but really I'm socially liberal and fiscally conservative. Okay? I don't like putting a label on it, but that's my view. I think that there's a lot of waste in government, but not as much as you think. And I think that you should always be trying to find ways to renegotiate contracts to the benefit of the American people, whether that's through Big Pharma, whether that's, how it affects Medicare, Medicaid, all those things. All those things need to be taken into consideration. But really, at the end of it, it's only because the only way that you're going to cut spending is by getting this healthcare system under control, the insurance system under control. Once you do that, it's going to be a lot easier. Once you get the level of care up and you bring down the cost, that's going to alleviate a huge, huge part of the spending in this country as far as the budget. And I hate to break it to you, but the only way that this new round of tax cuts being extended is going to get paid for is by cutting Medicare and Medicaid. There was already a senator, I think he was a congressman, who was laughing about it. He's like, well, of course we're going to have to, everything's on the table, including Medicare and Medicaid. How else are we going to pay for these tax cuts? Guess what?
For the record,
he wasn't a Democrat.
For the record, Autism, a person is born with it 100% of the time.
All right. So I guess my question would be then, is this something that when we were young was just misdiagnosed or not understood, or has there been an increase in it, or both?
I don't think there's been an increase in it. What has increased is our ability through the internet to hear more about everything around us, more information.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm sure that that's also a contributing factor, but it does seem like oh, see, and that's the thing is maybe all those kids that were like physically okay, but had to go to special ed, right? When we were in school,
Correct.
They might have been all autistic. We don't know, but they weren't.
The spectrum.
Yeah.
I'm convinced nowadays that everybody is on the spectrum. It's just a varying degree.
That's not, I don't think that's too far of a stretch. I mean, walk through a Walmart and you'll figure that shit out on your own.
It's kind of like my paranormal theory, which is people have died everywhere on this earth. Everything is haunted. It's just most people don't notice it.
Well, again, that actually, we should have an episode on that. I mean, I know we kind of did during the Halloween season, and now that we're in the Christmas season, maybe we can touch on that again a little bit. We can do the
historically, the Christmas season is the season of ghost stories.
Well, you got, if nothing else, you've got A Christmas Carol.
Yes.
So yeah, why don't we think about doing something on that? But back to the point, I think that it's a combination of things. I think it's a combination of corporate greed across the board. And when I say that, I'm not just talking big pharma. I'm talking across the fucking board. Corporate greed. And specifically with our food chain, right? So one of the other things that Trump spoke about, and I'd never heard him say this before, but when he was talking about immigrants that, he's like, dangerous or criminal immigrants, he said, they're not just in our cities, they're on our farmland. All right. Well, I've never heard him say that, I don't think, before. So now he's starting to understand we're going to have to figure out who's going to do that job after you get rid of them. Whether you lock them up in a detainment center or an internment camp or whatever, if they're not in the field doing the job for the wage that they do it for, will that not? The
robots haven't gotten to that point yet.
Not completely. Yeah, I mean, they're there.
And even if they did, some little robot's going to seduce a bunch of larger robots to get them to go back.
Just like your other guy. But I mean, if you think,
sorry, I love that story. It's so funny.
It is. I love that story. So I found one of the things that I found interesting when talking about that is the fact that we are a grab and go society, eating processed food, getting fatter and fatter, and that's creating all of these additional health issues, whether it's diabetes, heart disease, and the like, right?
Right.
But what food can we afford for like the bottom 30% of the country on the daily? It's fast food. Okay. So
yeah, absolutely.
So I actually have a list. They did some research. Let's see here.
You hear that?
Yeah. What was that?
Yeah, that's you grabbing your list.
Yeah, that's me. So here, the 10 unhealthiest fast food sandwiches. You ready? What would you guess? What would you guess? No ideas?
Well, I'm sure probably the Big Mac is like maybe 5.
Number 8.
All right, so it slid down even further.
Yeah. The Whopper is number 9, and Jumbo Jack Cheeseburger Jack in the Box is 10. But let me get to the top here. This one actually surprised me a little bit. Number 1.
Hold on. Before you announce number 1, this is from Carl's Jr.
No.
Really?
No.
Any of the top 5 from Carl's Jr.?
Unhealthiest?
Yeah.
No.
Really? Okay, go ahead.
Carl's Jr. actually on this particular list does not show up at all on the unhealthy side. Okay. Now, number 1, this one surprised me. Big Fish sandwich from Burger King is the number 1 unhealthiest
Really?
Yeah, that shocked me. Number two is
I've never had it, so.
no, I never had it either, but it's a fish sandwich. How do you make that so unhealthy that it's number one and a Big Mac is number 8?
Crazy.
The classic smashed Jack from Jack in the Box is number 2. Original chicken sandwich from Burger King. This is another one that surprised me. The original chicken sandwich from Burger King is number 3. Chicken sandwich classic from Popeyes, number 4. Crispy grilled cheese on sourdough from Starbucks is number 5. Chicken Junior sandwich from Burger King is 6. Meatball marinara sub from Subway is number 7. And then you got your Big Mac, your Whopper, and your Jumbo Jack cheeseburger. Those were the unhealthy.
That is shocking.
Yeah. And what shocked me the most is not just the fish, but how many
chicken is in the top 5.
Because when you think I'm going to try to eat healthy and the choice is a chicken sandwich or a fish sandwich over a hamburger, you immediately...
Are there any beef in the top 5?
The classic Smash Jack.
Okay, yeah. Which I also have not had.
That's it.
Wow.
Interestingly, the healthiest, right? So the sourdough grilled chicken club sandwich from Jack in the Box is number 1 healthiest. New York steamer sandwich, which I wouldn't order that just because of the name, from Firehouse Subs. That's a horrible fucking name. I don't eat there, but that's a horrible fucking name. Give me a New York steamer. Sounds like somebody's going to shit on my sub.
Does it come with a side of Dirty Sanchez?
Yeah. And let me guess, it's lemonade, quote unquote.
Playing the rusty trombone.
Number 3, the Cajun chicken sandwich from Firehouse Sub is, well, Firehouse is doing good on the healthy side. I'll give them that. They're in the top. They got 2 in the top 3. The deluxe sandwich from Chick-fil-A, not a big surprise there. Asiago Ranch Classic Chicken Club from Wendy's. Chick-fil-A sandwich. Hero sandwich from Firehouse Subs. Again, Firehouse is showing up with some healthy food here. Grilled chicken sandwich, Chick-fil-A. Classic chicken sandwich from KFC. I actually just had that tonight, and it was pretty good. And then number 10, engineer sandwich, Firehouse Subs. So Firehouse either is paying whoever is doing this list, or they've got some very healthy food. And I would not have expected that out of a sub place. So well done to you, Firehouse. Aside from your New York steamer name, that's just a bad name. Sorry.
We cook it directly over a New York steaming manhole cover.
It's just a bad name, no matter how you slice it. All right.
Because how can you say that without giggling at the counter?
Well,
if
you know New
York steamer,
if you know the slang, yeah, you can't. Yeah, I don't know. So to me, I wonder if if we could get healthier food at a more reasonable price that was grab and go, how many of those, just that, okay? How much would just that bring down the cost of Medicare or Medicaid in and of itself? But when you also are going to the drug companies, you're going to the, big beef, big poultry, big egg, big pork, figure it out, man. Because, we need more vegetables and fruits in our diet. We need to be able to get that good food and just pull it out of a fucking window for a reasonable price. And for fuck's sake, can we have normal size portions? I don't need a burger the size of my head. I never needed that.
I do. I just enjoy it.
Yeah, and you're diabetic. So, my point is made. I don't know. It just seems like if you're really, really serious about changing the system, it's not just about going, we're going to cut here, cut there. It has to be a holistic effort. And I just don't see that happening with this administration, especially when the leader of this administration, Trump himself, lives off of fast food. And just because he doesn't seem to have these problems medically, he's not going to understand why other people do.
This all goes back to that Michael Moore film.
Yeah.
Where Do We Invade Next?
Right.
Where he goes to France and studies their lunch menus in schools and how they are sit down meals, hand prepared, and they treat it as a class where they have an actual food group for everything. And the students learn what they need to eat healthy.
Remember, my
Rather
favorite part
than-
of that was when he offered them the Coke, a sip of it, and they were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
no, thank you."
Yeah.
You know, and if you did that in a classroom, they were what, second or third graders? If you did that in a classroom of second and third graders in the United States, man, you would have a riot because every one of those fucking kids would be demanding they get a Coke.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're killing ourselves.
Or already have it with them.
And this is my point. We're not only are we killing ourselves because this is the food that's available to us, right? So you look at
I
any
will say the school district that I worked for had vending machines in certain sections of the school, and it never had soda. None of them had soda. It was either juice, like apple juice and orange juice, or water.
Yeah, but even the juices now are so processed and full of sugar. You know what I mean? Like this is literally the point that I'm making. You are not, even when you think you're eating healthy, you're getting fucked. So you think you're eating healthy, having a fish sandwich, having a big fish from Burger King, and guess fucking what? No, you're not. You're actually having the worst sandwich available. And you're being tricked into this because you're told fish is good. Well, fish is good, but processed the way that they're fucking processing it, and with all the breading and all the this and all the tartar and all the you name it, and plus the bun.
You know what's shocking about that is that the Filet-O-Fish is not on the list.
No, but
it is probably the most looking-wise processed fish sandwich.
And it's, I believe, the number one healthiest menu item on McDonald's menu. Yeah,
which I'm
beating out, I think, even the salad.
Fish.
I think the filet of fish even beats out their salad. When you can't buy a fucking salad that's healthy. Come on.
Well, I do know from reading an article that purchasing a salad, whether in the store or in fast food, purchasing a salad, you get twice the amount of sodium from that salad than you do from a McDonald's cheeseburger.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. I look at it and I go, oh my God, everything that you buy is unhealthy for you. Like, and I'm not a health nut by any stretch of the imagination. But if you ever watch or pay attention and walk through a grocery store, I always found it interesting. You walk in, right, and what's in front of you right away? Produce.
Vegetable, yeah.
Okay.
Vegetables, fruit.
And that leads you on the outside perimeter of the grocery store, getting progressively worse in health content or healthy food content. So you start off and you got your bakery and your produce. And then you go to your meat section, and then you go to your cheese section, more of your yogurty, then your dairy, you got your eggs. And then, you know, everything that's an aisle in between produce and the last aisle of the store, which is usually some form of paper product, it's all boxed, canned, and bad for you. Like, if you went into a grocery store knowing that you cannot buy anything that is on an aisle, how small of a grocery store would you have? Like, if you got rid of all the processed food and all you had was farm fresh fruits, vegetables, meats, that's it. You know what I mean? Dairy.
Yep.
Your grocery store would be the size of a Subway. You know what I mean? Like, it would be nothing.
We spent a year in Vermont, which does not have big box stores. And we would spend more time at not fruit stands, but farm stands, getting produce straight from the source, as well as beef, chicken, pork, all of the mainstays we would get at these stands.
And I bet it tasted better.
Yeah, it absolutely did taste better. It's really shocking to people when they're only used to supermarket beef and how pink it is versus buying it from a farm and it's deep red.
Yeah, the way
almost
it's supposed
like
to be.
Brown almost, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not irradiated or whatever they call it, and partially bleached or whatever.
I don't even want to know what they're doing once it's packaged anymore. Like, I used to think those guys at, the hunter's net, I was like, man, that's a lot of work to go through when you can just run up to a grocery store and grab a steak, right? But the more I see what's going on, I'm like, it's probably worth the effort. It's probably, you're getting at least something that is natural and less likely to harm you because of the way it was processed. Anyways, we kind of got off on a tangent there. That's not really what I wanted to talk about.
Another news story here really quick. This happened today, breaking news. But the resident Senate leatherback turtle fell today at the Senate lunch.
Oh no, McConnell went down?
Yes.
McConnell's down.
McConnell fell during the Senate lunch today.
I shouldn't laugh.
He's all right. They went and grabbed him a wheelchair, but yeah.
I have no sympathy for that
Down goes McConnell. Yeah, fuck that guy.
I have no sympathy for him whatsoever. I'm sorry, I don't. I mean, I think that let's put it this way, if he were politically on my side of the fence, I would still think that he was a smarmy motherfucker.
Yeah.
I don't see any redeeming quality in how he handles business. And like I said, even if he was on my team, quote unquote, I just don't think he's a good person. And that's what bothers me, I think, about Republicans and Democrats. They get so wrapped up into, well, there's a D in front of his name, so I'm with him, or there's or her, or there's an R in front of their name, so I'm with him or her, instead of actually going, all right, like Jim Jordan, Marjorie Taylor Greene, what are they doing for you? What are they honestly doing for you? Not fucking much. Okay? Let's get it together. Let's realize that these are low quality representatives. There are better people that could come out of your district that are actually going to be looking out for you and your best interests and your family's best interests. And I just don't think that, McConnell is one of those. I mean, I think McConnell, actually, I shouldn't say that. McConnell was very sneaky about getting more shit for his district and for his state. I think he was very good at getting shit for his constituency. But the way he went about it, I thought was always pretty smarmy. Because it was always, I'm going to take it away from somebody else. It's always this, you can't have any too, because I got to take as much as I can get from you. Right on down to, Supreme Court nominees. All right. So again, with McConnell, I shouldn't laugh. I hope he didn't get hurt. Yada, 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 all the niceties, but fuck him. But what I really wanted to talk about, okay.
Yes.
And I've been chomping at the bit on this one a little for some time. It's all, and this goes to politics a little bit, because you always hear the right saying, Hollywood elite pedophiles, calling, even Tom Hanks a pedophile, which that one I find a little hard to believe. He played Mr. Rogers. I'm having a hard time believing that one. But what has happened, and normally I don't get too interested in like these Hollywood scandals, I'm not interested usually. But what's going on now after the P. Diddy bust, I didn't think much was I thought, yeah, there's going to be some fallout maybe here or there, whatever. But it seems like it's building steam.
Mm-hmm.
So Jay-Z has been named in a civil lawsuit filed by an anonymous accuser who alleges that he, along with Sean Diddy Combs, sexually assaulted her in 2000 when she was 13 years old. The alleged incident took place during a after party for the MTV Music Awards. According to the accuser, she was drugged and sexually assaulted by the two music moguls. The lawsuit was filed by attorney Tony Busby, who has represented other high-profile clients.
Who's your lawyer?
Busby. But apparently he's a good lawyer.
Wait, who was it?
Busby. Tony Busby. Jay-Z's legal team has denied the allegations, of course, asserting that they are unfounded and part of a broader pattern of extortion attempts targeting high-profile individuals. His lawyers have filed a countersuit against Busby, accusing him of trying to extort money by making false claims and threatening a public lawsuit unless a private settlement was reached. Public scrutiny, the lawsuit has attracted significant media attention due to connection to broader scandal involving Sean Combs. Jay-Z's legal team has requested that the accuser's identity be revealed to facilitate his defense and allow witnesses to come forward, citing the potential impact of anonymous claims on his reputation. All right, so.
Well, first off, I don't mean to slut shame, but in the lawsuit, she's identified as Jane Doe and says that she met men after the MTV Music Awards show at Radio City Music Hall in Manhattan. Again, at the age of 13, didn't have tickets to the event, didn't have an access to the after party. So she began approaching limousine drivers outside. Yes, apparently offering favors. And one of them drove her or took her to the after hours event where she signed an NAD.
NDA.
I can't talk. Thank you. And
see how I quickly came to you. Wait a minute. Wait. See how I quickly came to your rescue? You see that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, okay. Go on.
Where she signed an NDA.
It was real quick too, by the way.
Her signing the NDA?
No. You're being saved on how to say 3 fucking letters.
Okay. Where she was given a drink that made her feel woozy. She went and laid down in a room, she says, where Carter removed her clothes according to the suit and repeatedly, apparently, raped her with combs and a female celebrity who is not named in the document.
Okay.
No, in fact, she afterwards tried to perform oral sex. That's what I'm reading here. But she hit him in the neck and he stopped. Then she grabbed her clothes and ran to a gas station and called her father.
Okay. So.
Now, I'm not a prude. I'm not a wild and crazy guy, but at the same time, I feel like.
Yeah, you kind of put yourself in there, kiddo.
Yeah.
And maybe not even realizing it to what extent you put yourself in there. But if you were offering sexual favors to limo drivers, if I understand it correctly,
that's what it looked like.
I'm willing to bet that at least one limo driver got blown while she was still not feeling woozy from a drink.
I've never encountered a woman blowing me and her ID was on top of her head.
No, I've never seen that either.
Call me crazy.
Yeah.
Just
so I don't have any sympathy when it comes to the diddler, P. Diddler. I don't have really any sympathy there because it does seem like there's a lot of information coming out that not only was what he was doing, it's not like he was unaware of the ages of these people, right? And this goes right back to even like Justin Bieber, who at 15 was being mentored, quote unquote, by P. Diddy. I don't think that was a mentoring. And I think we know why Bieber went through as bad of a fucked up stage as he did. Like, that makes sense to me. Like, he was acting out. He was looking for help. He didn't know how to deal with the circumstance. And I am by no means whatsoever a Justin Bieber apologist or fan. Okay?
Yes.
Not at all. But if you have a kid, 14, 15 years old, 16 years old, and you're a big music producer like Diddy was at that time, I can see where you might be put into awkward situations that you don't know how to handle. You don't have the tools on how to say no. You're not familiar with the fact that this is not okay. Like all these things. And I'm sure it was done with a lot of, I don't want to say grooming, but I want to say, something to the effect of grooming. I don't think it started off with, hey, you're going to come and spend, a week with me, and your parents are signing off on it. Here's your NDA. You can never talk about anything that happens behind these closed doors, or I'm going to sue you for every fucking penny you have. That's how this game works. You could feel at 15.
There's a part of me that feels, 15, 16, 17, I was playing bars.
Mm-hmm.
And, going to school, playing bars.
Same here.
My band. And there were some crazy times.
Always.
But at no point in time did I ever feel like, oh, this dude's hitting on me. I better do this for a career.
Well,
no,
that's my point. Both of us started in bars at 15.
Motherfuckers for this.
Yeah.
And yeah, what did the 5 fingers say to the face? Slap.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like both you and I started performing in bars right around 15 years old. I was 15. I had just turned 15 the very first time I stepped on stage in a comedy club. But even at that, that was all thanks to Mom. She got me she knew that I wanted to do it. She helped me figure out how to get a spot. She drove me there. She waited in the club with me until my time, and that was that. That was the last time she helped me. After that, I took care of it myself, because it was a very awkward being around adult comedians and going, yeah, that's my mom. You know what I mean? So it was a...
Similar situation. Let me adjust my camera really quick.
Yeah, Mom used to set up all your gigs.
Yeah, and we would get the looks. We would get the smirks. Why is your mom doing this? You need mommy to do it? And I always had the same response. Do you trust your manager? Because I trust mine.
Right. She handled... I mean, again, she was very instrumental in both of our the early parts of both of our careers when it came to performing. She didn't handle any booking for me or anything like that. She handled all the paperwork like taxes and that, because I actually started doing pretty well pretty early. But it's, you're a 1099, you're an independent contractor. So it was her keeping track of my books for me. What's that?
Nice and tart iced tea.
There you go.
Putting lemon juice in mine.
But I've never been in that circumstance like you said. And now, mind you, fast forward to when I'm,
nice and bitter like my soul.
Fast forward to when I'm 30 and I'm in LA and, I'm fortunate enough to have the success that I did. And at any point in time, that could have potentially been a situation that I was put into. I've heard stories of not just other comedians, but actors and that found themselves in the office of some fucking shady rep or, agent or whatever. And they found themselves, in uncomfortable circumstances that they had to either remove themselves from, or they had a very bad story about. But I think for me, the only reason I'm finding this one fascinating is because Diddy had his fingers all over entertainment and fashion and just so many.
One of the first that really tried to diversify his investments.
Yeah, and he did. And I mean, like, now when you're talking about somebody who is in that position of power in the music industry, the publishing industry, the clothing industry, the fashion, all right? I'm sure he was in fragrance. I'm sure he was in a bunch of other things that we don't even know about.
Yep.
And you see what the charges are. Then it starts to make sense that there might be some possibility of truth to this. And I'm not saying that about Jay-Z. I'm not saying that about anyone else that's even like being brought up in this conversation. All right. So you're looking at right now, essentially, you're looking at the big players that are in his orbit, including Jay-Z, who just had that lawsuit. Obviously, Beyonce, Drake, Kim Kardashian, Bieber, Kanye West, right? Those are the main ones that are in that, flew in that orbit and potentially or not could be aware of what was going on behind the scenes, and I'm not even saying that Jay-Z, who was very tight with Diddy, I'm not even saying that he knew that this shit was going on. But it does seem like Diddy set himself up into a position with his business where where sexual trafficking wouldn't be difficult for him. And getting the drugs he needed in order to loosen people up in the wing of the house that particular part of the party was going on. It all seems like it makes sense that it happened.
Mhm.
It does seems logical to me, especially given the relationship between Kanye and Kardashian. And just the Kardashians in general, they were and have been for such a long time the people that Puff Daddy would want at his party.
Yes.
You know, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people that did bad things, but how many of them did it knowingly? That's the real question. Because again, you go to a party, I don't know about you, but if I'm going to a PD party called, what was it, Freak Out, I'm going to assume, and maybe wrongfully assume that everyone there is of age. And I'm not just saying 18, though that would be the low part. You know, maybe you got some servers or some, dancers or whatever that are 18. But when it comes to like the guest list and here's your buffet of pussy and young men, I would think that they'd be over 21, wouldn't you? I mean, like, so how many people, I'm not, again, I'm no fan of any of these people in any meaningful way. I think Kanye is probably a genius, but weird as fuck. And his weird as fuck is the turnoff that makes me not really want to listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
Would he know? Would Jay-Z know? Would Diddy be like, oh, I know you like him young, so go into bedroom number 3 and you got yourself what you're looking for. You know what I mean? And here's your baby oil.
Got some extra.
Thousands of bottles. So my question is, I went back and I started thinking, okay, what's the motivation? Is it just that they're fucked up, right? Are these people just fucked up? So I went back. I did a search for more high-level celebrities that had been convicted of or pleaded guilty to sexual misconduct, right? R. Kelly, obviously, we all know that one, right?
Yeah. He's in jail now for what, 50 years or something?
Something like that, right? And, everyone obviously makes the pee joke because that's what Chappelle popped up on, right? On the Chappelle show. I won't piss on you.
It's his brother. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink. Yeah. But there were far more reasons than, like that's not the reason he's in jail, right?
No.
Sex trafficking.
Charge.
Yeah. So federal charges included sex trafficking, racketeering, and producing child sexual abuse materials. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Cosby was convicted in 2018 for drugging and sexually assaulting a woman in 2004, although his conviction was overturned in 2021 due to a legal technicality. Danny Masterson from That 70s Show, the actor from That 70s Show, was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison in 2023 for raping 2 women in the early 2000s. I'm sorry, but for as tight as Ashton Kutcher and Danny Masterson were, I'm willing to bet that in the end, Danny jumped on a grenade.
Well,
because remember, hold on.
Yeah.
Back up a second. Remember, Ashton Kutcher was dating what's her face from the female star from
Mila Kunis.
No, from 8 Mile, and she was Brittany Murphy. After she had done 8 Mile, right? He was dating her and went to pick her up, and apparently that's when she was murdered. And he never went in. There was no, they say there was no evidence that he had any knowledge of anything that was going on. He just thought she bailed on the date or whatever. Kind of hard to believe that if you're Ashton Kutcher, you're getting somebody that's bailing on a date for you back then. But whatever, maybe, sure.
Well, I was going to say with Masterson, still probably is a big member of the Church of Scientology. Kushner is not.
Yeah, and I know that the
And
Scientologists were trying to protect Danny.
yeah, and if you're not in that group, there's a lot you don't know. So I think Masterson obviously kept that separate from his friendship with Ashton.
We'll give him the benefit. We'll give Kutcher the benefit of the doubt on it, but I do find
Plus, he was instrumental when the charges were filed of getting him off the show that they were on together.
Yeah,
at the time.
Yeah, what was that? The Ranch?
Yeah, great show.
Is it? I never watched it.
Oh, it's hysterical.
Oh,
it's great. Sam Elliott makes it.
Sam Elliott makes everything. Mike Tyson. See, this one, I don't know.
You know, I don't put him in the same category because he served his time, came out.
Yeah, but
everybody will tell you he's a heck of a guy.
I'm trying to remember it because it was Robin Givens that he was accused of raping, wasn't it?
No, it was another woman.
It was another woman? Okay.
Yeah.
I know that right around the same time he was like going through a divorce or something like that, or
yeah, he was being divorced by Givens, but it was not her.
You got Harvey Weinstein convicted of multiple counts of sexual assault and rape in 2020 and sentenced to 23 years in prison with additional charges resulting in further convictions. Kevin Spacey, while acquitted in London in 2023 and previously in New York in a New York civil suit, Spacey faced numerous allegations of sexual misconduct in the last decade. All right, so Spacey, you really got to almost take off of that one because he's been acquitted. Roman Polanski pleaded guilty of unlawful sex with a minor in 1977, but fled the U.S. before sentencing. He remains a fugitive, but is frequently mentioned due to his ongoing scrutiny. You had Cuba Gooding Jr. pleaded guilty in 2022 to forcible touching after accusations from multiple women. He avoided jail time as part of a plea deal. Jared Fogle, the former Subway spokesperson, convicted in 2015 for possession and distribution of child pornography and sex acts with minors. He was sentenced to over 15 years in prison. Gary Glitter, sentenced in 2015 to 16 years in prison for sexually abusing minors. Now, there's far more of these, right? I'm sure if you really, really dug in, you could find a bunch more. Here's kind of where my question comes in, right? Is I don't want to get into the minutia of each and every one of those cases, but what I'm curious about is, first and foremost, do you think that prior to their fame, this was their inclination anyway? Or do you think that it was the fame and the money that fed their more preent interests?
I think anybody in that situation could end up the same. It is fame, money, being surrounded by people that are at your beck and call for whatever. It just happens.
Well, even if you look at that chick that was on, was it Smallville, that got involved with that sex cult?
Yeah.
Right? So like that's where like I don't think that she started out in that because she was looking for, power or the feeling of power. I don't think I think she was looking for purpose, and this poor girl got suckered by this fucking really brilliant manipulator. So like that's a different type of situation where it's like,
exactly.
I think sometimes people are in such need for community or for understanding or feeling of being accepted that they
Allison Mack.
Yes, Allison Mack. I think that like that's more of a tragic situation, not just for the victims, but also for her. Because it was
for reference, she was sentenced to 3 years in prison and she's already out.
Okay.
It was really sterling.
For good behavior?
Yeah.
But when you look at the rest of them, right? And really, they're almost all men. They really are all men. Is that because men are just pigs? Or is it because they were, do you think that in any of these instances, it was something to do with their childhood? Or do you think that it was an innocent, maybe curiosity or fetish that started when they were in puberty that just continuously developed and developed and developed? Because I could see that too. You know what I mean? Like, even if you look at for as much as I rail against the people that want porn to be made illegal and no longer available online or anywhere, which is just ridiculous, right? I mean, it's
Correct.
just ridiculous. That's like saying we're going to get rid of guns. It's never going to happen. You know, there's two things you're not pulling out of my cold, dead hand, and it's my gun and my dick. I mean, that's kind of how the American way is, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder if it's one of those things where it starts off just the same, you know? Like, you see a girl in a bathing suit, and you can't believe it. And that's all you want to see is girls in bathing suits. Then you see, you know, a topless girl, and it's, oh my God, this is a whole new world. Then you see a naked girl, oh my God, it's a whole new world. Then you see two naked girls, and oh my God, they're touching, and it just escalates. And the next thing you know, you're rolled up in a fucking fetal position because you spent the last 12 hours jerking off to some sort of weird ass fucking donkey porn. Like, is that the progression that happens with these people? Or
I just want to go on record and say I don't appreciate you discussing my life.
But I mean, obviously,
how dare you not consider the donkey's feelings?
There's clearly some sort of progressive nature to it, and I say that because you don't
In my defense, the head donkey signed an NDA and approached my limo driver.
And approached your limo driver. But I don't think that these are things like, you don't just get into sex trafficking on a whim. That's something that I would think is done slowly, and maybe even without you realizing that you're breaking the law in some deranged way, you know? Like Matt Gaetz bringing a minor across the state line is technically sexual trafficking. Was he thinking of like that at that time? I don't know.
I don't know.
And we may never know now.
Questioning things like, if a minor happens to cross state lines to go to a theme park and meets a guy there and has sex, is that still trafficking?
Well, I don't know. It could be, I guess.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, could that like how far are they going to take that?
Yeah.
I mean, like if let's say, for example, you're a family of four.
If I meet a person who happens to be my clone and I have sex with them, is that masturbation or gay sex?
I think it's a little bit of both. Because in the end, it's a little bit of both. There's just no other way to put it. I mean, you know.
Here's a visual for you.
No, I don't need that. So the reason I ask that is because, like, I find it difficult to believe that this is who they were fully when they first broke out on the scene. I'm not saying it wasn't part of them. I think
it can change you. Again, the effect of everybody kissing your ass will boost a person's ego. I mean, look at Trumple Thinskin.
Yeah.
It's just a progression. I think it's a progression.
See, that's the thing is I think so too.
Is capable of it.
So like
it's just a matter of the person.
So like, I'll give you an example. And I think I brought this up to you earlier. I remember seeing Cosby talking. I don't know if it was part of a stand-up bit or if it was part of an interview or whatever, but he brought up Spanish Fly. And this was like way back, right? And he was speaking of it like, oh my God, I can't believe that this is available. But I don't think he was saying it from the point of view of, awesome, finally, I've got a date rape drug. Like, I don't think that that's where that started for him as a child.
No, I also don't think that's exactly the point of it back then. It was just freewheeling days of...
That's the other thing. There's such a difference between what was allowable in the 60s and the 70s, the 80s, even in the 90s. It really started to turn in the 2010s, but the poor bastards that didn't get the memo that was about to happen in the early 2000s, they're paying the price. Like, I will never defend Harvey Weinstein. I think I think everything that I've heard, if true, is absolutely horrible. However, it's not like we didn't know the casting couch existed. way before him.
Oh God, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I'm sure it was a thing back in the Roman times.
right. You know,
I mean,
like,
how many
again,
gladiators had to service the powerful people?
yeah.
It's been a thing forever. Behind every clerical robe is a man with a boner.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I mean, I hate to sound like I'm defending this because I'm not. It's more of a curiosity. You know what I mean? Like, I really do believe that Cosby just didn't want to get caught. Like, he wanted to have the sex. He just didn't want to get caught. And he knew that loose lips sink ships. And he wasn't letting the SS Cosby go down without a fight. So I think that when he was drugging them,
going to have troubles. You'll always have troubles looking through the glasses of today's sensibility and morals, you know, so to speak, and applying those to past times. You can't do it.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And again, I'm not defending any of this.
No.
You know what I mean? But I'm very curious.
Reason rather than an excuse.
I'm very curious because it's like, this has got to be like, no matter where you are in your life, no matter what age you are in your life, that it's your sexual proclivities, whether legal or illegal, will have been developed from the time of essentially puberty and maybe even a little bit before that. And if you grow up in a less than ideal situation, that may tilt how you roll. All right. So I'll give you an example. And I've said this, I don't even know how many times. I don't like kink shaming at all. Whatever makes your freak flag fly, let it fly. As long as no one's getting hurt and everyone is on board, I don't care what you're doing. All right. I don't always understand it. You know what I mean? I don't get certain kinks.
So I don't have to hide my midget in front of me?
No, you've never had to hide.
Right.
Little Tony, you never had to hide. Come on out, buddy. It would be so great if a little guy jumped up on your lap.
Just for reference, Tony was actually the name of the donkey. Jimmy is a midget.
But like I said, I'm just very fascinated by how you get progressively deeper into that pool, right? So let's take, for an example, and I don't know if this is the case or not. I don't know what the exact turn on is for a furry. I don't get it. Being hot and sweaty in a fucking mascot outfit getting dehydrated doesn't sound like a blast to me. But I could see.
I know from experience, as you do, dressing up on Halloween, how sweaty and sticky.
Oh God, yeah, like
that's horrible.
It's horrible. I can't imagine what the sexual turn on is.
Stuck to you. Ugh.
But maybe that's the turn on. Maybe I don't know. My inclination would be that it starts off probably very young and as a child with a stuffed animal of some sort that is your comfort or your whoopee, and as you get older you're not willing to give that up, and the next thing you know you're humping your whoopee.
Whoopee. I love you, whoopee.
You know, I mean, that's the only thing that logically makes sense, because I don't think that you just wake up one day, you know,
oh, Whoopi, did that drink make you a little woozy? Sorry, I couldn't resist.
I just find it difficult to believe that all of a sudden you graduate high school, you go to college, you're sitting on the in the bleachers watching the halftime show, and all of a sudden you lean over to your friend and you go, you know, I never realized it, but Bucky Beaver really gives me a boner. Like, I don't see that.
It gives me a Bucky boner.
I get a Bucky boner. Like, I don't see that as like all of a sudden. You know, there's some things that maybe are all of a sudden. You're instantly exposed to something that is shocking taboo, and yet you find you can't look away. I think that does happen. I don't think that happens in the, you know, and it's the same thing with these, you know, these cases against all these performers. I don't think that they got there immediately. What's interesting, though, is that there comes a point in every circumstance where you have to communicate that kink to at least one other person to be involved in it with you. Right? Like, this isn't happening in a vacuum. This isn't fucking AI. This isn't a hologram. right? This isn't fucking Star Trek where you walk into a room and, play the program. I mean, like, you got to have, there's going to be a conversation.
You think one of the first mechanical sex toys was a Teddy Ruxpin?
Teddy Ruxpin?
Oh, that movable mouth.
I can't speak for anyone but you.
Oh, yeah. Teddy, read that story hard.
Oh, God. Oh, man. But, like, even with, if P. Diddy is sex trafficking, right?
You know who I blame? I blame Tickle Me Elmo.
For the furries? Yeah, I can see that.
Yes.
I can see that. It vibrated. I can see that, actually. That makes a lot of sense. That just cleared up all my questions.
You ever see the video of the Teddy Ruxpin hooked up to a voltmeter that can turn up the electricity?
Yeah. Yep. And they went full tilt boogie on it, and basically it was like he was having, this is not fun anymore. Elmo no like.
Oh. The shriek it gave.
Yeah. Oh, man. And that would be actually a perfect spot to leave it. But like I said, I mean, I'm sorry. I just have a few more questions and maybe people can, they can email us at Elsie's Little Pickles and let us know at gmail.com, Elsie's Little Pickles at gmail.com. But I am curious, that point there, Epstein, at some point he had to get Maxwell involved.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just this level of perversity, maybe, or sexual curiosity. It's
sometimes
definitively
love is finishing each other's sentences.
Yeah. Here you go. But there's this level of manipulation necessary. And I think like that happened with Epstein. I think that definitely happened with Diddy. It's now a matter of who else. And I hate to say it, but I think that unlike Harvey, who kind of went down with the ship, I think P. Diddy, I mean, even if you look at Epstein, the only one that really suffered aside from him was Maxwell. And maybe that's justifiable. I don't know. I don't know enough about the cases to really get into it. But it just seems like Diddy's going to take down a lot of people that may or may not have been involved. Because I think for him, he would rather have the diffused rage rather than take it all on himself. I don't think he's man enough. I don't think he's man enough to take the blame and be like, no, I'm not pimping out anyone. I think anything he can do to get his ass out of trouble or lessen the sentence or soften the blow for him, he will do. And it's just curious to me how he got there and how many people must have been manipulated into helping him do that. And I guess with that's another Elsie's Little Pickles. Peace out.